Salem was easy. The hardest part of Salem was editing. This doesn't make sense. Let's move that out. So I don't have that clear-cut story, and I miss not having. But
yeah, it's been. I mean, that's why I moved out. I'm from upstate New York, and it's a similar sort of vibe where everything there is 1800s or newer. It's not especially of deep cultural historic significance. It's just not. But Salem and, in Boston, like when I had the opportunity to go to grad school, I looked at a bunch of different places and I was like, oh, Boston, that's an actual, that's a cool sounding place, where some of the other places I was looking at were sort of equally in the middle of nowhere to where I already had gone to school, and I really wanted to be in the middle of somewhere. So I went to school in Boston, and when Willem joined me, my husband, after he finished his master's degree, he came down and went to grad school down here to finish. And so we couldn't afford to live in Boston once it was the two of us. And Salem's a lot cheaper than Boston, but it's not cheap by upstate New York standards. So don't think of Salem as like an easy, cheap place to grab a house. Because, man, I did some apartment shopping a couple of years ago, and it's steep, but in any case, it was the idea of living somewhere where we take our history more casually, but also more seriously, I guess, at the same time. And what I mean by that is that when you live here, you're not as awed by it. You're not as blown away. Like you're more comfortable living with your ghosts in a very literal sense. Like whether you believe in ghosts or not is sort of irrelevant. It's that you're living alongside a story, and you need to care for that and be respectful of that. We also take our history more seriously in the sense that one of the first things I tell people is that none of it happened here. None of the stuff that you hear about happened here in Salem. And we also, yes, how many witches did we hang? None. Like those are in I've been accused of being kind of a killjoy with that, of sort of, well, but it's fun to think about. And I'm like, it's fun to think about killing innocent women and children. Cool. Not my idea of fun.
Yeah, no, it's see, I disagree. There's nothing fun about it. I will say it is interesting, but it's interesting. Like a wreck on the highway is kind of interesting. I don't need to see the bloody, gory details. I don't want to see them. But I do want to remember this, because this is not the only time the specter of this has visited us. McCarthyism is almost a perfect echo of the witch trials. And if we do not watch, it will come back again in some other form. It's kind of coming back.
It has been. It never stopped. It's just that we culturally don't have a problem killing people who fail the paper bag test. If you are darker than a paper bag, the justice system is stacked against you. And sometimes you have only your lawyer on your side and everybody else is against you. And that's a tough position to be in. And I lived and worked in New Hampshire for a long time. New Hampshire is 97% white. But the prison where I worked was 35% people of color. So 10 times, you're really telling me that people of color are 10 times more likely than statistically they should be to commit crimes? No, it's that our criminal justice system is fundamentally racist. And so we do that. It's never stopped. It's just that with the witch trials and with McCarthyism, for instance, many of those victims were white. And so we paid attention.
Yeah, no, I got my education in that, and the road as a stand-up comic. I was writing with a fellow comic. We were going to a gig. We were going to several gigs together. He was a black guy, and occasionally he would drive. And I had driven through most of Montana, And so we were heading to Idaho. And I'm just like, dude, I can't. You need to drive. Take my car. Here's the keys. I'm going to go in this sleep and see. Here's my CDs because it was the 90s and that's what I had. Listen to whatever you want. I don't have a lot of rap other than Eminem. I'm sorry. It's just it's not anything I have. But, if you find something you like, it turns out he's a big fan of Frank Sinatra too. So we had a place. Anyway, point is, in fact, we had a long conversation about Frank and Brat Pack and Sammy Davis. Neither here nor there. So, but we literally had just entered Idaho and we got pulled over. And there's a word I won't say. It's a word of racists. But the cop opened with, what are you two, and I'm going to say ninjas. What are you two ninjas doing here? And anytime my friend tried to open his mouth, this cop was sort of on it. But when I would try to open my mouth, he was almost worse. Like I'm somehow worse because I'm hanging out with the guy. And so at first he's sure the car is stolen until I give him my records, and everything. And long story short, he eventually let us go. But I was black by association and I had never been that before. And I had never been more scared. And since that time, I have to look twice. I look twice before I say anything to anybody just to make sure I'm not even slightly dipping into racism. Because that was an education to me. He hadn't done anything. He's driving my car. He wasn't speeding. And he specifically, because he told me before he started, he's like, I don't speed because if I get stopped for it, it's worse than if you do. And I said, yeah, at the time, but I didn't really understand. So yeah, no, I believe you. It's like Chris Rock once said, that train is never late. And he's right. That train is never late. I'm going to end here. I want to say thanks to everybody who listens. Thank you to our listeners. As I said in the early part of the show, please share it with friends. I also want to thank a few people. First and foremost, the guy who does our theme song. His name is Bill Barrett, and that is spelled BEHRENDT. If you need theme music for a project, feel free to reach out to him at Bill Barrett at sbcglobal.net. He will happily set you up with something. Very nice guy, our Bill. Also want to thank Paige Elmore, who designed our logo. Thank you, Paige, from Reverie True Crime. And do listen to her show. She's such a sweetheart. Also, thanks to Aaron Gnerk, who runs the Big Dumb Fun show here in Kansas City and has done some local promotion for us. Thank you, Aaron. And just, be cool to each other, be kind to each other. Make sure you join us next week as we discuss puckwudgies. Going to get into a little folklore. So, and thanks again to Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss. Please listen to her podcast. It's amazing. As I'm looking at the length of the show, it probably is going to get split into 2 episodes, which is fine with me. But because not having to record next week and just having to edit, I'm good with that. I'm all good. So thank you very much. Time for us to say 1, 2, 3. Bye. Bye.